Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Ni no Kuni. I had to exit out, not because of any problems, just simply because I needed I didn't really have a way to minimize the game. It doesn't a lot of games are like that, particularly nowadays it's much more around the idea of making something from the mentality of being a console game, or I guess this is the latest one. Or a cell phone game, and there are already metrics and mechanisms to minimize a game or switch a tab in a cell phone game or in a console, and the good old fashioned Windows minimize button sometimes it gets forgotten. Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel is kind of a prime example of that, because there literally is just like no no way whatsoever to minimize that screen, and so you have to just exit out. That did give me a slight opportunity um, to look at the trailer video again, nearly 9 hours in, and it does now that I understand the mechanisms and what I'm seeing a little bit better, it does probably spoil a little bit of the surprise going forward, but it does indicate a few things we can expect to happen. So apparently, I reckon there'll be some proper nasty monsters around here. Don't try to be a hard man and take them all on. Just hurry and get to Alma Moon, ain't it? Alright, well, I was gonna go and forage up here, but it seems to me like running for your life is the recommended move here. So we'll take that. We'll take his instructions and we'll take that for truth and move forward to this area. Like, one of the things we kind of knew is that there would be at least 3 companions that we're going to get, and that'll bump us up from having 3 familiars, which again I think should be called Oni, or just monsters in the translation. Um, but if we get even one new companion, I think we very quickly may, from day one, as soon as we get a new companion, have go from 3 familiars to 6 familiars, 3 of which being controlled by the new companion. If we get 2 companions very quickly together, then we'll be bumped up to 9, and that would drastically change how these fights go. Take note that it definitely has been a case where I am throwing out 1 character at a time, and we're fighting 2 characters at a time. So there is kind of no fair answer. That's not really a fair fight. Hmm. 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 Seems like our defense and hit is probably still high enough, though. So we didn't totally die in that fight. And we got a decent amount of XP off of that, too. Plus, some new items. It may be the case that the areas we visit are going to more affect what kind of items you can get, as far as rewards or just as far as the shiny elements. You can definitely see the scale is different. The cities are really small, and that's typical for a RPG game, certainly, to not have a one-to-one scale city that you would have to walk around if you don't want to actually go through.
Here we are, Alma Moon. Beautiful.
Frankly, I'm a
It's
little
different from
surprised
Downtown,
there's any
Well, of
more
course it
voice
is, baby.
acting.
A slap bang in the middle of the desert for a start.
And here we'll see
What's
the
that delicious
Japanese
smell?
That's the babana, is it?
sentimentality.
Babana is
Uh,
our Alma Moon's never eaten a fruit like it.
in
Gorgeous
it
they
we'll
are.
see
Tell you what, I'm starving. See a
some
banana split?
Really? They're that good?
Persian style
Too flippin' right they are.
characters
This
and
place got built
outfits,
on
and
the
you'll
banana
see
trade. Best
Indian girls with their
Okay, let's
belly
try.
showing and cleavage showing, just right in the background, and some legs showing too. This is definitely the old style of showing like Persia, Middle East characters. They are still white, which again, Japanese people really are never great. Well, I haven't said this, but Japanese people are terrible at animating people as being dark skinned. Half the time in manga and anime, if somebody is drawn even slightly dark skinned, it's just because they're overly tanning or using spray on tan. But yeah, certainly in decades previous, the Western people also would depict Persians, Middle Easterns as mostly white European-like characters, and they're certainly showing a lot of skin, which once more more Islam and Muslim Shia laws became stricter or got interpreted differently. The most Middle Eastern countries these days would never abide belly showing and leg showing and cleavage showing, or even hair showing in most cases. Not to get too deep into that, but some of that is also the United States and the Western world's fault, backing people or giving guns and funding and support to people who wanted to enforce a tighter, stricter control using religion as an excuse, creating a much less free looking environment to a Western eye. Of course, that's not going to have anything to really do with this game, but it is, once again, an argument to say that this world definitely feels like a fictionalized world coming from the mind of Oliver and what he would have heard or what stories he would have known or been told as a kid. Most video games are frankly terrified to set anything in the Middle East, and certainly set anything in the Middle East that would look even like Prince of Persia, which has been part of an albatross, at least one small part of the albatross around the Prince of Persia series, in that they've tried to reboot it, remake it, and they're working on that, but they're not getting very far. And that's in part why they kind of abandoned the Prince of Persia Sands of Time series in favor of the Assassin's Creed series. And the Assassin's Creed series feels more historically accurate for the time frames it's set in and the areas it's set in. At least the first couple of games do. I don't know if that even at that though, the first Assassin's Creed series really is in the middle of the Middle East, and now Assassin's Creed series are in Viking lands, fighting Viking creatures and wearing Viking outfits. So they've moved away from being Middle East centric, and they did that fairly quickly too. There's been far more Assassin's Creed games in Europe and general Europe areas than there have been in Middle East areas. Let's get back to this game. I'm getting distracted here, rambling. Before we go bananas, though, we should try and find the Rashad. Ain't it? It's what we came for here for, after all. Right, we should ask around and find out if anybody knows him. So he's probably not going to be just a king. Interestingly, they've once again very quickly dropped the voice acting. I really would have preferred all of this to be voice acted. Excuse me, sir. Do you know where I can find the great sage Rashad? The great sage Rashad? It's a long time since he was called by that name. These days, you would do better asking after Rashad, seller of bananas. He sells bananas? You mean he's not a sage anymore? But getting him to teach me about magic was the whole reason for coming here. There's worrying still. We were after a banana split anyway. So we might as well stop by and see what's what, ain't it? I guess. Let's go find Rashad. So the guy's not even gonna help you? He's just like, oh, you might do better if you ask about the guy that sells bananas. But clearly the camera wants me to come over here and look at this girl. You're not of this realm, are you, child? Are you a traveler, perhaps? If you wish to sample our famed and most delicious bananas, you must follow this road to the end. Welcome, welcome. All of our produce is very freshest. You are visitors to our city, are you not? Then I shall give you a most magnificent discount. Yep. Well, clearly they wanted you to pay attention to those characters, but they're not really saying anything. As a kid, I would probably want to talk to kids more. But I imagine what's going to happen here is we will not be able to do too much until we move the story forward. Yeah, I imagine some of these characters will have quests for us later, but we probably have to go to the quest board. This is our inn, but are we at a point where we need to sleep? No. Here we have a fairly small kid. I feel like Rashad is going to end up being a monkey or something. With all these bananas around. Or it feels like we should see some monkey characters. Oddly, we're only seeing human characters where we saw cat characters before. There is, I think, something also that needs to be pointed out, that being fully covered up in extremely hot environments is actually safer. Like, the amount you can reduce from infrared heating from the sun just by reflecting it or blocking it with cloth can really save you a lot. Even though you are kind of oddly going in the opposite direction and covering up stuff. Also, protecting yourself from the wind is a big deal in the desert. So there is some logic to the dress. It's not just total insanity. It's really depends on whether or not you're going to end up spending 12 hours outside versus like 1 hour outside. Right, so this would increase our attack. This would increase the attack. This would increase the attack. What I should consider, though, is probably something that would increase everything. Although at a certain level, I wonder if it really is more of a case that I should just not buy any of this stuff. Like, this adamant badge might be a smart move. If I was to sell some of the stuff that's in the bag, I could sell this for 35 gold. I kind of think it is all really just treats, though. I think you should just spend all of your gold buying treats, leveling up your character permanently, because the odds of finding a bunch of treats, I think, is a lot lower than the odds of finding a finding just a bunch of equipment. You just won't need as many true equipment pieces as you will treats. I wasn't really expecting each of these storefronts to look exactly the same. That certainly saves them in some animation efforts, I guess. Or it's just going to be the same characters over and over again. Right. And there might be slightly different designs inside this place. This guy, though, looks like he is pretty much the same character. I guess maybe I should have turned in things first and then come back here and see if there were any bounty hunts. Doesn't seem like there are going to be. It definitely feels like we're just going to end up coming back to this whole area, to every area in the game, multiple times. There's a shirtless boy running around. And yeah, we can now see that there are one green dot, which that's a piece of heart of enthusiasm probably, and then 3 quest things. I'll compete in the Oasis race. I must practice all I can. He's out of breath. Yeah. I certainly question, though, how much gameplay really you're gonna have to play through. Okay. So we still haven't done anything with the ingredients. Like, they haven't even taught us to cook. And I think it would be Phoenix Feather. Alright. So buy a Phoenix Feather for 500. Although that may not work until I have another companion anyways. And we know this guy is in love with eating knees, and so we want to see what happens if we just get the familiarity up to the maximum. So I'm going to get 15 chocolates. That leaves me with only 60, or nearly 60 gold. 15 chocolates may still be a problem, though, because how much can he really eat until his fullness goes away? Yep. Let's just tap the A button as much as possible. Yeah, this is more than likely going to stop working, and we're going to need a second tier, if not a third or fourth tier of increase, because I'm going to fill up his fullness, and then I'm going to have to use him a lot to balance out that. This increases invasion. See, that literally just got me up nearly one full cycle of attack before he's full. Alright. This evasion salted ice cream. Do I think this would be something he would love? Or should we give it to this? Let's give it to this guy. He didn't love it, but it worked. This guy does love it. Alright. We really don't have enough money, though. There it is. And like, if I was to give a treat to this guy, would he love this? I bet not. So we're gonna have to kind of remember these things, unless it's mentioned in a book somewhere, or as far as what foods they love. It feels like the game should memorize that for us. As far as the Phoenix Feather, I hope it just automatically activates and you don't have to use it. If you do have to use it, then that's only going to make sense when you have companions. Here you have a very traditionally dressed, or more conservatively dressed. I don't know why I said traditional. I have no idea what the traditions are. Female and male, and these could be people from the city, or they could be travelers. It's no good, I just can't be bothered. Leave me alone. What happened to you? We're full of beans when we set out from Ding Dong Dell. Is everything okay? We're traveling merchants, you see, but ever since we arrived in El Mamoon, my husband has completely lost his will to sell. And after we went through all the trouble of leaving Ding Dong Dell to travel the world and earning enough money to open up our dream shop. Who cares about that stupid shop? Selling things is such a lot of effort. Let's not bother anymore. What's funny here is neither one of these characters are named, so when it's jumping between the wife and the husband talking, it's not even telling you. Where obviously there should be a tag that says wife, husband, and just descriptors there. Male merchant, female merchant even would work. Something to differentiate who is talking. So he needs enthusiasm. Well, that doesn't look good, does it? I reckon our friend here must be feeling a bit under the weather. I can see where you're going to be no use. I'll just have to work for the two of us then, won't I? That, or we could mend his broken heart. One hubby-sized helping of enthusiasm should do it. Agree to undertake this task, yes. Yes, we have to cure him. We can't just leave people who need our help. Yeah, let's wriggle on and find us some enthusiasm, shall we? I don't even need to. I do have to talk to him. To give the heart to him. I would have thought that we would have moved on to the next type of piece of heart, but that may just be an indicator of how long this game really is. Where am I? What was I doing? Oh, that's it. We need to make enough money to open our dream shop. Let's get to work. Darling, you're back to your old self. Thank goodness. Sorry, my darling. Did I worry you? I'm so sorry. Better now, let's get to work, shall we? Nito, we cured him. Thank you so much for helping me out. You deserve an extra special free gift. It is somewhat a Japanese mentality too, that just people need enthusiasm and they can break themselves out of a funk or depression. I mean, what is heartbrokenness if not really depression? And while it would be lovely if in the real world you could just cast a spell and cure people of being in a funk or depressed, it's not true in the real world. And to propagate the idea or the mentality that that's the case is problematic. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to my beautiful cape, but it's not quite the season. Looking for Mamooni's man about town, you know? Why not update your outfit with some of our top quality fabrics at prices suit every purse. To suit every purse. By now I'll regret it forever. Nito. Look at that, it's beautiful. New cape, huh? Oh, Ollie boy, we're not here to on a flipping shopping trip. What do you think we are, made of money? Oh, a fairy, and a very stylish little fellow you are, too. Let's have some. I have something here that would suit you down to the ground. Let's see now. Oh yes, perfect. You reckon? Yeah? I see what you mean. I'd look the business in that, Mr. Drippy. Oh, oh, sorry, Ollie. Boy, I got a bit carried away. Ain't it? You've got to hand it to her, though. The girl can sell. Roll up. Fine fabrics to put a smile on your face and a spring in your step. Look, the locket is glowing. I reckon that's why this young lady's got more enthusiasm than a school full of 6-year-olds. Excuse me, ma'am. May I ask something from you? What is it, young man? Are you interested in some of our fine fabrics? I can offer you an excellent price. No, it's not that. I was wondering if you'd maybe let us borrow a little of your enthusiasm. Oh, don't you say the funniest things. My enthusiasm and my smile always come for free. Take as much as you like. This is funny because Oliver is really not getting informed consent when he takes enthusiasm from the people, to use a medical term. Because really Oliver should say, no, I'm going to cast a spell and take some of your heart's enthusiasm away from you. Not just say something funny that you know people probably won't understand or believe, and then get the kind of yes that an adult would give to a 5-year-old or 6-year-old just to get them to go away. I'm sure that's sure kind of you, man, but we only need a little. But also, I guess it would not make for much of a game if Oliver had to sit down and explain to everybody I'm a wizard and I'm literally going to cast a spell on you. My, what a strange feeling. Now I feel even more ready to sell. I don't know why she would feel more ready if we took some of her enthusiasm. I do have to also wonder, and it's just a wonder, I don't know if there was actually a Persian timeless like this. It may never have actually been like this. It's kind of hard to know accurate information. I'm not sure if females would have ever been allowed to be the sales or shopkeepers, the sellers. And I guess I would also point towards an idealized version of a Japanese perspective of what a Persian bazaar might look like compared to what in reality probably would have been. Now this girl here, I do believe, is our first companion if the trailer is somewhat to be believed, or somebody that looks like that girl. There is a kind of repetitiveness in these 3D models, but I guess you really can't complain too much about that. Like, you're not probably going to spend as much time. Interesting. I didn't realize I could just knock Drippy over. Seems like you can, but you have to trip him up pretty badly. Here we have a ox fountain, which maybe indicates the king of this place is an ox. But we're not really doing anything with the king. You can definitely tell how there was a mandate that they were going to make multiple cities. Every city was going to have a nice big palace. There would be 2 guards behind it. There would be a king. There would be fountains in the entry area in front of the castle. Alright, so we need to cast a spell, I guess, on Horus so we can talk to him. Nice to see you again. Did you have fun crossing the desert? Fun. There's flipping bullying, man. Bullying for you, maybe. Pipsqueak. I'm a ghost and ghosts don't feel heat, so there. What are you doing here, Horse? I'm looking at these fountains. They're amazing. They squirt out milk. All the milk a boy could drink. They're what Al Mamoon is famous for. Oh, okay, so it's oxes and cows and milk. But the spicy smell coming from that food stall is mixing with the smell of the milk. It's strange, huh? You think so? I kinda like it. Hey, there's still loads of spells you don't know yet, aren't there, Oliver? Well, I'm trying. It's just what my wizard companion is kinda... most of the pages are missing. Oh yeah, I had to give you the page for Spirit Medium, didn't I? Uh-huh, well, when Mr. Drippy gave it to me, the only spell inside was Gateway. Really? So the pages have been torn out. I bet it was that idiot Shadar's doing. Alright. I suppose I'd better help and fill it back up again, hadn't I? Tidy, that's generous. Maybe I was wrong about you being a stingy little midget after all. Yeah, midget, another phrase that is not being used very often these days. And certainly, I question the localization of this game. But then I question this game in general, because it feels like it should be targeted to kids, and that yet it feels like it just totally gave up on that halfway through production. Because clearly a localization team would have changed some of the dialogue. Clearly you would have wanted easy mode to be a little bit easier. Remember, I am playing on easy mode and I've already died 3 or 4 times. Clearly you would want a lot more voice acting for Western kids in particular. There is probably an unforeseen reason why Japanese games, Japanese RPGs in particular, are not so interested in voice acting. While voice acting is a big deal in like anime and movies, the vast majority of the time that a Japanese player playing something like a Japanese RPG or any game would be playing, they'd probably be commuting on a train or a bus, or even in their own bedroom as kids, or if they even have a separate bedroom as kids. Sometimes they don't even have that. The houses tend to have paper thin walls, and some usually be built really close to together, whether they're apartments or actual standalone buildings. So you're not even really welcome in Japan to have a loud TV in your own house, and loud by Japanese standards can be fairly quiet. So the ideas of like a 7.1 surround sound system in Japan is probably laughable. You would never hear that. Even when you're in a movie theater, the movies are very loud, but the average amount of loudness, but the people sitting in the room are incredibly silent. So and when you're commuting on trains, you're absolutely expected not to make any sound or any noise at all, or you'll get dirty looks. So you could see a scenario where On the streets, you're not expected to make any noise or nuisance. In your own house, you're not expected to make noise. On commuting, you're not expected to make any noise. At work, you're often in tables and not your own office. So there's just like not really a scenario where you could be playing a game and hearing the voice acting, and so that there's less of a demand from the Japanese for Japanese voice acting, even though it would be fairly expensive to pay voice actors to voice an entire game like this. It wouldn't be insane. I am rambling a lot more than I'm playing today. I gotta keep on. Well, I'm not just going to hand over a load of pages, if that's what you're thinking. Oliver will have to prove his wizarding comprehension skills first. The Wizard Companion isn't just full spells, there are also stories in there which are gathered by the sages over the centuries. By those who probably have torn it out too. But those have probably been torn out too. Stories are pretty powerful after all. They might inspire people to stand up to him. Right. I'm going to give you one to get you started. Have a read. It's one of my favorites. So we have a new tale of wonder, The Cowardly Prince and the Lion, The Cowardly Prince. Okay. So he is going to straight up require that we read the story. Okay. 12 Tales of Wonder, The Cowardly Prince. In a certain country lived a prince named Tamalo, who was sharp mind but weak of spirit. His father was a brave king, strong, wise, loved by his subjects, but the nobles' example he set served only to weaken Tamalo's spirit. On one occasion his fathers told him thus, "Soon, my boy, it shall be me to retire, and upon which thou shalt be king." While the announcement delighted the princess, it was filled with a terrible dread, for he did not have the spirit required to ascend the throne. In his vexation he wandered from the castle, lost in thought, whereupon he encountered a fearsome looking lion. The prince tried to flee, but the lion caught him easily in his paw, lifted him to his gaping mouth, and swallowed him whole. At first the prince thought he was doomed, but at length he began to reconsider his position. At least I no longer have to become king, thought the prince. After taking a breath, he said to the lion, "Mighty lion, I am the prince of this country, and the day after tomorrow I was due to become its king. Since thou hast swallowed me, however, thou must needs become king instead." "King, eh?" replied the lion. "I shan't complain about that." Thereupon the prince led the lion back to the palace, from, I guess, inside the lion's stomach. The courtiers were shocked to see the lion enter the palace, but the prince pleaded with them from inside his stomach, and the lion was accepted as king. The lion proved to have quite the aptitude for royal duties. Whensoever there was a dispute in his kingdom, the lion would simply growl at the quarrelers. "Stop complaining or I shall eat you." Whenever a bridge was swept away by a flood, the lion would simply use his paws to rip down a tree and lighten across the river. Regarding taxation and legal matters, the lion was utterly ignorant, but whensoever such a problem arose, Prince Tamale would speak to him from inside his stomach and provide him with a sound solution. And I guess we're supposed to continue from that point. After some time, news reached to the king that two dragons were ravaging the eastern and western edge of the kingdom. The people were terrified and looked to the king to deliver them from terrible evil. It may be that the riddle literally is just this first part. That would make more sense. Let's look on the edge here just to make sure there isn't some kind of secret thing in the art. The next page would go on and go on. Alright, so it's either read this first chapter or read the whole thing. There were two dragons that were ravaging the eastern edge of the kingdom. The people were terrified and looking to their king to deliver them from terrible evil, upon which the king announced that he should go and smite the dragons himself. Now, for a video game, I think I need to take a break here and point out, this is a terrible way to tell instead of showing. There should have either been a cutscene once you got all these pages that showed you this event and maybe even made you fight and play through the events of the story with just some narration happening over the top where it would pop up text and describe things to you. That would make a lot more sense, as if your mind was pulled into the book and you had to play out the events and learn it. It would be a great way to do like DLC, certainly, also, or just have the content of the game take a bit of a twist instead of everything just being around defeating Shadar in a very slow process. But even the fearsome lion stood no chance at defeating such two terrible dragons. My dear stomach dwellers, he said, what in the wide world should I do now? Prince Tamalo considered the lion's question and at length provided him with a suitable scheme. The lion headed east to the part of the kingdom that was being ravaged by the larger dragon and roared its ugly face. And then, let's zoom back in. Dragon, I shall soon slay you. I fear thee not, for no matter how large thou art, thou shalt never devour me. Oh, scoffed the dragon, we shall see about that. Upon which he ate the dragon whole. From inside the dragon's stomach, lion said, Dragon, thou art not king of the land, and it is therefore thy royal duty to defeat the dragon ravaging the western part of the kingdom. At first the dragon paid him no heed, but when the dragon witnessed the humans around him bowing down in deference, as Prince Tamaro had requested them to do beforehand, he decided to do his royal duty, whereupon he went to the western mountains and slew the other dragons. Once the other dragon had been slain, the lion commenced to scratching the inside of the dragon's stomach. Ow, it hurts, cried the dragon, rolling on the floor in agony. Have mercy, I beseech you, to which the lion said... Here we have a picture. So, the people are getting eaten with... getting eaten on top of being eaten. If thou wouldst not feel the pain, thou must promise never again to hurt the people of this kingdom. Ow, very well, I promise, cried the dragon. But the dragon was a cunning beast, and Prince Telmo knew that he would break his promise the moment the lion was out of his stomach. He therefore had the lion take out a babbling berry that he told him to bring with him and place it inside the dragon. This berry was known to make noises that sounded like someone muttering to himself. With that babbling berry in his stomach, the dragon shall know when the lion escapes, thought Prince Tamalo. Later that night, when the dragon was sleeping, the lion crept out of his gaping mouth and set off back to the palace. The dragon left the king and his subjects alone forevermore. And then a new king. The kingdom had been peace for 10 years when the lion said to Prince Tamalo, Stomach dwellers, time thou camest henceforth from in there, I would have thee take my place on the throne. Prince Tamalo was shocked and replied in a quivering tone, I fear I do not have the spirit to become king. But thy judgments of the past 10 years have invariably been wise, said the lion. That is as it may be, but I am a coward, said Prince Tamalo. It was only because I was protected by the greatest strong lion that I could act so decisively. Yet the lion paid no heed. With an almighty sneeze, he ejected Prince Tamalo from his stomach. It had been 10 years since Prince Tamalo had seen the wide world outside, and he could not believe his eyes. The lion's was now full white, and his face was covered in wrinkles. Shut up inside the lion's stomach, Prince Tamalo had been quite unaware of this. And did the prince not grow old in the stomach? I guess maybe he did, maybe he didn't. As thou canst see with thine own eyes, I have grown old. 10 years hast thou resided in my stomach, and yet not once did thou scratch me or cause me any pain, as I myself did to the dragon, though thou couldst have done at any time. The courtiers and subjects of the kingdom did not accept me because I am strong, they accept me because I have given them my all, by which I mean thou hast given them thine. Thou art the true king of this country, thou lackest not the spirit, I assure thee. In like manner, everyone at the palace beseeched Prince Tamalo to become their king. Prince Tamalo, everyone is humbly grateful for everything thou hast done. Our country needeth just such a king as thee. Upon hearing these words, Prince Tamalo felt the courage swell up within him, as King Tamalo gave still more of himself to the country, and despite the fact that the lion had retired, he continued to live alongside the king in the palace. Though many countries are ruled by animals these days, in ancient times all kings were human. Indeed, the magnificent lion about whom you just read was the first ever animal to be acknowledged as a king, and the world has never been the same since. Alright. That is a lot of dialogue. The good news here is there's only 12 of those. The bad news is there's 12 of those. Let's see if we can answer the horse. Good, the riddle. There are quite a few characters in the story. Can you remember them all? Tell me what was the third smallest out of the prince? The lion and the dragon in the east, and the dragon in the west. It was... It's gotta be the lion. Because one of the dragons in the east or west would be the biggest, and then the other dragon would be big too. Wow, it's just gonna straight up have me type. Why am I typing dragon? It was always described as the lion, so I'm hoping this is good. Maybe this is being translated wrong. Or maybe I have to do something else. Maybe I can't do it all in capital. Let's see. What? So it would have been beneficial, I suppose, to just look at the riddle first. I'm confused. Certainly. The dragon of the east was the larger of the dragons. What's going to be funny is he's going to ask me a completely different riddle here. Tell me, who was the third smallest out of the prince? Who was the third smallest out of the prince, the lion, and the dragon of the east, and the dragon of the west? The Lion King. maybe I have to type in Lion King. Lion. And this, having to type in the answer instead of being prompted the answer seems insane considering there are 4 options. Even if this was on a Switch, it doesn't make sense. Like, if anything, this I think is a great example of the problems with touchscreens in general, as in that the only thing a touchscreen helps you with is potentially tapping to type. And in a video game, this is not what you want. Alright. L-I... back I-O-N. And then do a space now. Who was the 3rd smallest out of the Prince? Prince is spelled P-R-I-N-C-E. Maybe I'm thinking of this in the wrong way, and maybe they're thinking backwards. Clearly the Prince is the smallest. Then the Lion would be the 2nd smallest. Then the Dragon of the West. I mean, let's just type in West and see if that works. East. That's not gonna work either. So to even get this right, would probably start with spelling dragon. 1 O or 2. This is a nightmare scenario. I could definitely see somebody getting frustrated with this and rage quitting. So you had to spell it all out. Dragon of the West. Correct. Very impressive. Your wizardry comprehension must almost be as good as mine. Oh, I said I'd help you fill up your wizard's companion back up, didn't I, here? So we now have draw poison, which probably just removes poison effects. Thanks, horse. I suppose it was a bit mean of giving you a question like that, but you worked it out eventually. And that's what being a wizard is all about, learning to look carefully at every detail and understanding what's going on. Shut up with the wise old man talk. Well, you're no flipping older than Ollie Boy here. Not, I don't suppose I am. At least I don't seem to be. What's that supposed to mean? It's strange, I feel like I'm forgetting something. Something really, really important. Never mind. Can't be how much this place has changed. I can't believe how much this place has changed. I'm gonna see the other towns around the world and, or as different these days. I think I'm gonna head somewhere with a bracing sea breeze next. I might not be able to feel the wind on my face, but I can still enjoy the view. See you soon. I wouldn't be surprised if this sage is somebody who turned evil, and this is like their innocence or part of their hearts or that they got ripped from them. You know, it looks like we have kind of a unique food seller, but I can't talk to him, which is odd. Yeah, well, I guess I can't talk to him if I'm right next to him. But yeah, that was a nightmare scenario, certainly. That just having to read all of that. And I did have to read all of it, not just the first chapter. Alright, let's talk to this girl who, through the trailer, we kind of know is going to become our companion. Who are you? That's all we get. And this certainly creates a problem now. Here we have one dark-skinned man, which is probably about as much as they could bear to animate. And then that just creates this problem about who are all these other light-skinned people. I mean, it's not insane to say that there are some variations in skin tone of Middle Easterners, certainly, but I don't think pale white is really a skin tone you'd expect. Let's see, what's this quest is? Oh, this will never do. It's bad for business, very bad. What's the matter, man? The desert's filled with marauding boneheads. These traveling merchants who bring us fresh goods are being attacked. I fear that soon our lines of supply will be severed entirely. If only there was someone who'd rid us of those skeletal scoundrels. Seems like they're in a proper pickle. Hey, Ollie boy, shall we offer them a helping hand? Yep. I'll help you, ma'am. I'll beat those boneheads for you. Come now, child. We're not in so much trouble that we need to send the likes of you to your doom. Nah, Mum, you don't understand. He's got me, Drippy. Lord High of the Fairies looking after him. He'll be right as rain. What exactly will you do, little man? Gnaw upon their shin bones until they hop away? Hee. What the you flipping cheek of it, flipping shin bones. Drippy back to cussing. Ollie boy, our pride is on the line here. We need to batter those bony beggars good and proper. Sure, let's do it, Mr. Drippy. Very well. Defeat 10 boneheads. That'll be enough to allow our supplies to reach us. Okay, so that's one quest. See what this one is. Oh, it's a tragedy. How will my poor darling dear ever survive? What's the matter, love? My soul, my only dearest husband has traveled to Golden Grove in search of delicious mushroom, but he's forgotten to take his lunch. Knickers, there's disaster. Yeah, I guess it's kind of bad, huh? He must be real hungry by now. He must. Oh, he must. The wild beast of the forest prevent me from delivering it to him myself. Whatever shall I do? Golden Grove, huh? That's the forest we came through. The one with all those giant mushrooms. That's it, old boy. The fertile forest of fabulous flora and fauna. It's a proper good place to go in search of a bit of grub. Ah, so you're familiar with Golden Grove. Then you must make an urgent request of you. It is a great inconvenience, I'm sure, but there is an emergency. Please, you must deliver my dear darling husband's lunch to him. Yeah. I don't think any of these quests are going to have any kind of time limit on them. I'm still having the audio all mess up. Yeah, I don't think there's really any time limit on them, so we can wait on that for now. And the lover's lunch basket seems like it will be its own little separate thing. Yeah, it is weird, certainly. Why are there so many light-skinned characters? Here's a shirtless dude. Were you aware that Alma Moon is the center of song, dance, and music in our beautiful world? We too wish to become performers. We came here from our home far to the south to dedicate ourselves to our dream. Interesting. So it may be a case that every time we re-enter a environment, the city will have changed a little bit. I wish the camera would do some more panning shots like this. This is really nice, but by default, this is what you would see. And you can definitely see how a lot of games have gotten lazy making the player become the cinematographer and deciding the camera angle as far as which way you're going. And sometimes it is definitely helpful to let the player decide what they're looking at, but a lot of times that's irritating. Yeah, this does not feel good. It feels like they have whitewashed a Middle Eastern country. But then again, it is also a fantasy country. And again, I still think this is all just a fantasy coming from the imagination of Oliver, who would pretty much whitewash it. It's not like there were any dark-skinned people in Motorville.
Excuse me, are you Mr. Rashad?
Back to the cutscenes with voice acting.
Mr.
But it's
Rashad,
not flat
sir,
2D
I need you to
cutscenes
teach me
anymore.
magic. I need you to teach me the most powerful spells there are, so I can defeat Shadar.
Defeat Shadar? You?
Yes, sir.
Your journey has been wasted. I no longer practice the magic arts.
Huh? But why not?
We'll want to keep an eye
I
out
thought
on
you
how
were
they
one of
voice
those
this
sages who
character.
knows everything there is to know about magic.
It matters not what I was. I use magic no more.
Is she... What do you want? Who are you? Jeepers.
The poor thing's broken-hearted, looks like.
I think it's worth
Shadar
pointing out that
sacrificed her heart. It was my fault. I defied him, and to punish me, he did this. That is why I fight no longer.
is she supposed to
I cannot
be
risk my child's
related to him?
I will not. We must accept
Yeah,
our fate.
she's his kid apparently, and yet she's that pale-skinned.
Mr. Rashad, sir, you're wrong. She wouldn't want this. She's not in pain because a piece of her heart was stolen. It's because you gave up fighting. Because you gave up on everything. That's why she's in pain.
Like Oliver would
You
know.
are sure of this?
Yes, I am.
I see. I see now that you would say anything to enlist my aid.
Huh?
Begone! Leave us in peace.
You're making a mistake. I wasn't trying to...
But frankly, that's exactly what he did.
Well, he wasn't wrong. It looks like Shadar's stolen a part of the poor dab's heart.
Then we have to help her. We have to make her heart whole again.
Nah, looks like, I said. This is different.
Huh?
Her heart's not just broken, it's closed.
Closed? What does that mean?
It's like this, see? She's not just had a part of her heart stolen, she's closed it up tight too, to keep the rest safe like. So, before we can think about replacing what's missing, we'll have to open it back up again, innit?
And how do we do that?
We go to your world. If we find whoever she's connected to by there, we can work out what's going on with her by here. So, we head over your way and find her soulmate.
So her
Alright,
soulmate is
let's
almost
do it.
certainly that
Right on,
Starry
back to
Mary.
your world it is.
Now, like, Oliver really did speak out of turn there. And it's actually genius writing to write a, like, 10-year-old boy to say the wrong thing and do the wrong things, instead of making him the perfect superhero of a story and always right and never disagreed with or argue or disapproved by adults, which only makes it, I think, more sadder that there's just such a history of actual scientists and pseudoscientists trying to prove that people from Africans, were descendants of monkeys and not human at all, and thus slavery is acceptable, and segregation is acceptable, and just mistreating black people, dark skinned, is acceptable. Um, there's such a history of that in the real world that it's understandable that putting even a single banana next to a African looking person, dark skinned person, might be considered inappropriate. To have the only black person in this city surrounded by bananas is problematic, to say the least. And this is probably something that the Japanese would either actually be ignorant of or claim ignorance of it, and it's definitely believable. Like, the Japanese are very much homogenous as a society, and they frankly pride themselves on that. So the idea of like slavery and the history of that would be in the United States and the West isn't something on their minds. But even at that, some localization team should have been involved to say, this seems weird. Like, don't have him sell bananas. Have him sell anything else. Like, pick fruit. Pick a different fruit. Apples, whatever. That would have been fun. On top of which, them talking about bananas doesn't fully even make sense if it's cows and milk that is the big trade item of this world, of this area. It would make him make a lot more sense if he was a milk salesman, even though we already have the milk bar in the city. And yeah, while there may not really be knowledge and there may be ignorance on the Japanese creator's part as far as putting bananas next to a dark-skinned man, the ignorance itself leads towards racism, and Asians are kind of blatantly racist when they do see a dark-skinned African person, just because they look upon it as such a oddity, but the ignorance there and not knowing the insults that have been hurled in the past leads to decisions like this, to have a completely pale-skinned white daughter that you're going to either have to explain as an adoption or just albinoism, and even that doesn't really make sense because albinoism would make the hair white. This girl is whiter and paler than even Oliver is in the middle of the desert. It doesn't make sense at all. And almost certainly the Japanese started with this girl and said, let's have a female companion and some eye candy to look at, and then in the process of development they decided, well, we need a sage in the desert, so let's make him look like this character. And then in the process at some point they decided, well, we need a reason why we meet this character in the desert, so let's connect him to this character. And that just created enough momentum to the point when nobody ever said, wait a minute, why is this person look nothing like this person? The hair color doesn't match, the skin tone doesn't match, the eye color doesn't match, general build, look at just like how small her feet are. Yes, she's supposed to be younger, but look how big his feet are and his hands are. It's just absolutely doesn't match. Even the outfits color palettes don't really match. Like the pink puffy leggings versus a long white robe with blue. There's blue and gold that they compare, but thematically the purple and the pink don't match. She he has a staff. She has nothing. He has black shoes. She has pink shoes. Yeah, these two characters clearly were not going to be connected originally. And it also just gets weird if this is supposed to be like a Persian Middle Eastern thing. It doesn't make sense for a girl to have blonde hair. So where do we start the search, eh? Remember how this works, ain't it, Ollie boy? It's all about spotting similarities. Somewhere around here is someone who's similar to young Esther. Did we get her name in the same way? I don't think the game told her name was Esther. Like, I think the game probably, they had written a line of dialogue to say her name, and then they removed that line of dialogue. Now, what girls do you know? Girls, question mark? I don't really talk to girls. I mainly talk to Phil. Crikey. Well, that's no good, is it? How are we gonna do this, then? I'm sure there's somebody she reminds me of. Can't quite put my finger on it, is it? Never mind. If brain work won't work, leg work will. Let's go for a stroll around town and see if we can either spot Esther's soulmate that way, shall we? Okay, Mr. Drippy, let's go find that girl. So, we're just trolling town looking for girls. Well, we know where we're going, so I don't think there's a real benefit in not just going directly in that direction. If we could search trash cans in Motorville, I'm actually a little surprised we've gone back to Motorville so many times, and get collectibles, there might be something to that, like if we could get treats or power-ups. Everybody in Motorville is dressed in kind of a modern European clothing. Talking to extra people, I don't think does anything for us. Even the blue dots don't show up on the map like they do in the other maps. There are female characters, but not quite who we're looking for. It would have been fairly beneficial as an idea to be able to go back to Motorville using Gateway at any time and get a few pieces of bread, a few provisions, things that would just let you build up your resources if you're dying a lot. Also might get away from the idea of, let's see, can we save in Motorville? Yes, we can. Might be beneficial to do that. We will do something with that dog, I think, eventually. But yeah, it doesn't quite work that way. There's nothing to do here other than the one thing they thought of. It would almost make sense for Motorville to always be flat 2D animated. You could definitely have a divergent point where the entirety of the game looks like Ghibli and you have flat 2D sprites, and or just always only have cutscenes in the real world, and then when you go to the other world, which I still don't think they've given a name to, everything turns 3D at that point. Hey, I just thought, what's up, Mun? You having a nice time thinking about girls, is it? Again, Japanese, not afraid to go in the lewd direction and potentially make a dirty joke. No, when I used to come here to Phil's garage, there was a girl. She was always looking at us from her window. From a window. Sounds like a proper shrinking violet. I guess so. That's the window up there. Oh, that's her, Mr. Drippy. Flipping heck, boy. Why didn't you think of her straight away? She's the splitting image of her, man. Huh? Of who? Who you flipping think, you blockhead? The great sage's daughter, ain't it? The one who's obviously her flipping soulmate. Is that obvious? I never noticed. Yep. Obviously, Oliver being a young boy, not paying attention to girls yet. You sure have good eyes, Mr. Drippy. She was only in the window for a second. Never underestimate these razor-sharp eyes of a fairy, my boy. Spot the speck of dust on the head of a pin, I could. Anyway, it's her, no mistake. Let's go and barge over our way into her bedroom. Okay. Yeah, I'm sure that will be very well received, barging into a stranger's bedroom. What's interesting here is if you look at this map, they're actually mapping out this step up, which I just don't feel like you would normally do. And we can't get to that house. Might make sense to look on the mailbox and find out the name of these people before we go into the door, but I guess not. It's no good. There's no answer. Is something the matter, dear? There's nobody home, you know. I need to speak to the girl who lives here. You're a friend of Myrtle's? Oh, you poor dear. You must be awfully worried about her, huh? Oh my, you haven't heard? Well, just between you and me, you and I think you and me would be more accurate translation, even if you and I is perhaps proper English. Things haven't been going so well for Myrtle's family lately. How come? Her father works every hour at every single day, nothing but work, work, work. He never's at home anymore. Such a shame. Rusty was always such a devoted father. But something has happened to him. He's changed. I hear him shouting at them through the walls. I don't know how poor Betty copes, let alone young Myrtle. Such a shame. Betty is. That's right, dear. She's Rusty's wife, and she's every bit as devoted to him as she always was. Why, only this morning I heard her promising to bring his lunch to him down at the garage. All the love she pours into those sandwiches. It's enough to break your heart. Well, why, I'm welling up just thinking about it. Such a kind soul. Poor, poor Betty. I have half a mind to tell Rusty Cartwright just how lucky he is. Jeepers. Oh, just listen to me gossiping on and on. Do ignore me, dear. I'm just a silly old woman. Say hello to Myrtle for me, won't you? How would he say hello? You don't know who she was. People make that mistake a lot. Writers, I think, make that mistake a lot too. It's like, can't say hello to her for me without you knowing who you're talking to. Crikey, sounds like there's like things are none too rosy in the Cartwright household, eh? Mr. Drippy, we can't leave her like that. We have to help her. We have to help Myrtle. That's easier said than done, Ollie boy. She's not coming out for a chat, and we're not getting in unless we go magicking the door open. You're right, we should use magic to open the door. I'm the only one who knows how, and I'm the only one who can go in there and speak to her. You sure you want to be doing this, Mom? When Mom died, if you hadn't taken me over to your world when I thought I was all alone, if you hadn't helped me, I'd still be alone right now. That's why I have to help Myrtle. If we don't, she'd be left staring out her window forever, all alone. That's justification enough for a bit of breaking and entering in my book. Let's get in there. Okay, Mr. Drippy. So again, it does definitely feel like you could look at the events of this story as just being a little boy whose mother has died, who's having a psychotic break from reality. He seems to have been fairly perceptive, and now he is seeing how even other people in the city are having difficulties and problems, and bringing that into his fantasy. Of course, that still is a very boring interpretation to go by. Huh? It won't open. That's proper weird. A rubbish little lock like that should have popped undone easy peasy. Hunk. What's wrong, Mr. Drippy? It's the door, Mun. There's an evil power protecting it. Your spell didn't fail. It was repelled by malevolent force. What? Repelled? Jeepers. Must be the girl, ain't it? She's the soulmate of a sage's daughter, after all, you think? So what should we do? I tell you what we do. Carry on trying to get in the front door. It's not exactly polite, but just barging. I tell you what we don't do. Carry on trying to get in by the front door. It's not exactly polite, but just barging into people's houses anyway. You're right. I guess we'll have to find some other way. No. Jump a fence and climb a pole. I mean, this is a little boy. I would think his first instinct would be climb the tree, climb up here, try to go in through the window. But I guess we're not going that way. Instead, I think we're going to talk to the father. That was P. Hey, maybe. What's going on, Ollie boy? Maybe P knows something. Oh. Hey, what the flipping heck's going on? Yep, Drippy still does not see P. Oliver, you have to go in there. It's open. How the flip? Did you do another spell on it or something? No, it wasn't me, it was P. Huh? Where's she? Never mind all that. Let's go get in there, shall we? There's a damsel in distress up there, Mun. So back to voice acting.
My name's Oliver. Don't worry, I'm not crazy. I'm a kid from right here in Motorville. Just like you.
I know. I've seen you.
You have?
I'm sick. I can't leave this room. If I go outside, it hurts. So all I can do is look out at the world from my window.
That's why they call her Stary Mary. Shh! Don't worry, man. No one can hear me by here. I can talk as loud as I want.
Yes, that's why they call me Stary Mary.
Huh?
Crikey, can she hear me?
That's what they call me around here. But you knew that already, huh? I bet you think I'm weird, don't you?
No, I don't.
It's okay. I don't mind. You should go before my father comes home.
Oi, come here a sec. This is proper weird. I've looked as hard as I know how, but she doesn't seem sick at all. She's as fit as a fiddle, in fact.
You mean you can tell?
I'm Lord High Lord of the Fairies, and of course I can tell.
So what is wrong with her?
Let's just pay attention here.
Whatever sickness she had might be gone, but something still got a hold over the poor dab.
What is it?
Oh,
It's funny they
nothing.
had to animate this whole room, and we're probably only going to see it for a
Okay,
free
Myrtle?
few minutes.
Well, if you can't leave your room, I'll come to you instead. That way we can be friends. How does that sound?
Oliver. You can't.
Huh?
My father won't allow it. You should leave.
But Myrtle.
Just like you said, Mr. Drippy, it's almost like Myrtle and Esther are the same person. Ain't it, though? They could be twins, man. I knew they were soulmates the moment I laid eyes on her. But she ain't brokenhearted. There's something else stopping her from getting better. Must be her parents. Her family is. If that old gossip is to be believed, yeah, sounds like our folks aren't getting on too well. But our family squab is really the kind of thing we want to get mixed up in, Ollie boy. Maybe not, but we have to help Myrtle. Family is important. It's everything. Well, since you put it like that, go on then. Let's help the poor dab out. Next stop, Rusty's shop. Let's go, Mr. Drippy. It probably wouldn't have looked as good animated if you had knocked on the door and she had stepped out on the porch and talked to you like this. But even if you had animated the cutscene there, you wouldn't have had to have drawn as much. Her saying she goes outside and it hurts. There are people certainly that are allergic to things, allergic to sunlight, allergic to pollen and stuff like that, but if that were really the case, her staring out of a window that's open would probably also be a problem. Really, that leaves only the assumption that the father is emotionally or physically abusing her and keeping her locked up. I imagine what's going to happen here is we're going to find that he is missing something like compassion in his heart, and this will be the point where we get the second type of pieces of heart that we can collect. Then we'll have to do the same for the sage, I suspect. But it also kind of feels like there should have been some boss fight. We're gonna pretty much have an hour and 30 minutes straight of just dialogue, just reading stories, just answering a question, just talking to people. We had one single fight on the way towards Alma Moon, and that's it. This must be Rusty's garage. I got a bad feeling in my lantern about this. You best make sure you're good and ready before you go in. Okay, Mr. Drippy. I mean, what could I even really do, though? Like, this guy's full up. We could see if this guy likes magical defense, I suppose. Nope. But that is pretty much all you can do. You can't buy provisions. Like, you can't get sandwiches or white bread or iced coffee in this area. We can't buy weapons, armors, or anything like that. Can't buy treats. We don't have the ability to cook things with ingredients yet. So, only thing we could possibly do is save and then go in here. Yeah, we can see a dark aura around the guy, and it looks like we're gonna have more voice acting. This must be Rusty's garage, eh, Ollie boy? And this must be him over there. How are fights going to look and be perceived by normal people in the real world? Are they just not going to see the magical creatures? Are there going to be explosions and tables and chairs get thrown around? I guess so, huh? Excuse me, sir. Are you Myrtle's father? I came to ask about her. Can't you see I'm busy? Beat it, kid. What's that swirling around him? Nah, can't be. Honey, I brought your lunch. Not this again, I'm not hungry. But honey, if you don't eat, you'll get sick. I said I'm not hungry. It's probably a smart move not to voice act yelling and spousal emotional abuse. Okay, honey, just look out after yourself, please. So that was Myrtle's mom, huh? You two, get out of here before I throw you out. But so are we. It does very quickly become a different game if all of a sudden Oliver is just using magic spells to beat up on humans. That is certainly a different message to send. Crikey, look at those eyes. Broken as heck his heart is. They don't zoom in to show the eyes, so like it's kind of hard to see. I am looking at this game 10 feet away on the TV, so but this is the kind of game that you probably should be able to play on the TV more than most, even since it is inspired by a Ghibli movie. But yeah, it would have made a lot of sense to zoom in and look at the face. He's heartbroken, but he's not from your world, Mr. Drippy. Let's worry about that later. For now, we know what the problem is. We need to mend Rusty's broken heart, ain't it? I guess we do. Don't worry, sir. We're gonna help you. I think it also... Eek. You're kidding me. A flipping nightmare. Now we're for it. Like, he clearly isn't lacking enthusiasm, though, because he's obsessed with working. A nightmare. You mean like a bad dream? Nah, man, much worse. A nightmare is an evil spirit that latches onto the brokenhearted. See the black, misty stuff? That's how you know. Knickers, the mist is getting darker. That can only mean one thing, and it ain't good news. And it's gonna straight up take you into a different world to do the fight in. And this is dangerously getting close to something like Persona. Rusty's nightmare, void of chaos. Okay. Alright. Let's see if Sandblast has any effects. Alright. This guy hits too hard. Let's try. Let's see. Frostbite. For 31. Fireball. For 19. Frostbite. Let's go ahead and send our other guy out. Alright, we need provisions. Go ahead and just use a sandwich. Notice how it takes a while for you to recover your health. So if he's continuously doing damage to you and you to eat a sandwich, let's see, let's try this guy. Psych up and go wild. Alright. Back up to provisions. We need some... There's all this like dark energy. Around him. We don't have enough for this. We'll throw this one out. Nope, nope, we can't do that. We're gonna die if we're not careful. We're not at a point where it makes sense. And hitting the guy definitely does not make sense with our guy. Alright. So despite all of our build up and try and get our character as strong as possible, this is a very difficult fight. Suffice it to say, we're taking a lot of damage. I may die here. See, the game is trying to give us magic spells. In a funny way, though, this also is going to probably be like one of the last difficult fights for a while, because we'll get Myrtle's soulmate as our companion, and then that will just significantly increase the amount of damage we can do against enemies. Our guy leveled up 2 times. Honey. So what is Betty supposed to think here when he just passes out? Do you assume that he just passed out? Or do you assume the little boy beat him up? Betty, stay away from me. His heart is still broken. Of course it is. We only got rid of the nightmare. Mending his heart is a whole nother problem. Mr. Drippy, these nightmares, just what are they? Well, they're sort of like beasties, only they're born from broken hearts, and they latch onto them and sort of possess them, see? And Shadar is behind the nightmares too. Look at him, Ollie boy. Him and Rashad are like peas from the same pod, ain't it? What Shadar's done is he's gotten the better of Rashad over in our world by attacking his soulmate over here in your world. That's just awful. He's attacking people in my world now. Looks like it. And if we don't mend his heart, he might get taken over by another nightmare. We need to sort this out, Ollie boy. You saw what he was like before, ain't it? It's pretty obvious that what he's missing is a man-sized helping of kindness. Kindness, gee. That's right. Anyone overflowing with the milk of human kindness spring to mind, Ollie boy? A real kind person, huh? Honey. Oh, honey, are you okay? Please talk to me. Well, sometimes the thing you're looking for just plonks itself right down on your doorstep. There's lucky. I guess so. So we need to go talk to her. Excuse me, ma'am. Oh, why, you're Allie's son. Yes, that's right. I have something to ask you. Miss Cartwright, can I borrow a little of your kindness? I'm sorry, dear. I don't think I need it to make Mr. Cartwright better, please. I need it so I can help him. I really don't have the first idea what you're talking about, but if it stands even the smallest chance of helping my husband, then sure, I'll do it. Thank you, Miss Cartwright. Thank goodness these don't require any magic, because I didn't level up and my HP and magic is extremely low now. Yep. And I guess we kind of know it's going to be slow to get the remaining 6 of these pieces of heart, unless they speed up the process. What did you do? I almost feel warm inside. I still don't get why people feel better when you take some of their overflowing pieces of heart. It's almost as if they're making an argument that there is a baseline and having too much is negative as much as having too little. And for things like kindness and enthusiasm, that's probably true, but it's a complicated concept, certainly, to try to tell in what looks like a kid's story. I suppose it is also worth mentioning that most Ghibli movies very much do have an adult appeal and often adult themes that are kind of designed to fly over the heads of kids watching them. Like My Neighbor Totoro, for instance, is a very kid friendly, like very young. I wouldn't be upset showing a 4 or 5 year old My Neighbor Totoro as a Ghibli movie, but there is also a theme of the mother dying, and that being the reason why uh, the characters in My Neighbor Totoro move to a new place, and there being an underlying theme of everything they see in My Neighbor Totoro is a way of the young children dealing with their mother dying. Tidy, that means it worked, ain't it? Now give it to Rusty. There's a good lad. Okay. Alright. Betty, just leave me alone, will you? Come on, man. Hurry up. Hand over the kindness before we have another flipping nightmare on our hands. Okay. I suppose you can make a mistake here, too. What are you doing? And honey, oh honey. Betty, what am I doing here? Did you do something with your hair? Oh, Rusty, you're looking very handsome yourself, honey. Tidy, it worked. Ah, marital bliss. There's lovely. Excuse me, boy, what do you think you're doing? This is no time to be interrupting. Just leave them to it and go tell Myrtle everything's back to normal with her folks, shall we? I guess you're right. Let's go. And Myrtle's supposed to believe that? I'm in a weird position, certainly, where I probably need to sleep in an inn. So it wouldn't be a bad idea now to go back to Al Mamoon and sleep at that inn, since you need to sleep at the inn once anyways. So I guess we get to see the inside of this room twice now.
Oliver, what is it?
Well,
If my father sees you, he'll...
Myrtle, come with me.
Huh?
You can go outside now. You're not sick anymore.
I can't, Oliver. Just thinking about going out there gives me goosebumps.
Myrtle.
Oh.
It's probably agoraphobia.
But, Father...
Fear of going outside.
Sweetheart, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened to me. I wasn't there when you were sick, when you needed me, and I was fighting with your mother the whole time. I guess maybe the thing was keeping you closed up in here. Maybe it was me.
Father...
You were scared somewhere deep down that if you went away, even for a little while, your mother and
I guess we have to talk about skin tone here also. What is Drippy doing? Yeah, the game can't even stand to be serious for a second, so they have Drippy being silly in the background. But yeah, talking about skin tone, the father here is somewhat tan, but
Father,
at best I would say he's of descent of a Middle Eastern. I definitely wouldn't look at him and think that he's 100% from deep Africa.
Oh, I do.
And it's a little bit more believable that Myrtle would be pale if she'd been being tying up to her being inside.
Oliver?
And that's why she's pale. In this case.
Try. I'm going to go outside. Will you come with me?
Myrtle.
So here, it goes to show you, they could have just animated this and have all the conversations happen here. And then that would have even enforced the idea of her being afraid to cross the threshold and go outside.
Myrtle!
I did it! Oliver! I did it! I'm outside!
You know what, this sucks though, because now either we have to skip forward in some time, or you have to have Oliver just kind of leave her,
Oliver!
because we got to go back to the game in the other world. Yeah, I'm so happy for you, Myrtle. I couldn't have done it without you. Oliver, I'm going to go outside every day from now on, and I'll go to school again and meet new people and buy new clothes. It's so strange. I was scared to come outside, but now I feel brave. I feel like I could do anything. Listen to her, Mun. All of a sudden, she's got more courage than you could shake a stick at. I can feel it all the way over here. She does, huh, Mr. Drippy? There's someone in the Alma Moon who could really use some of that courage. Nice thinking, Almoon. A drop of Myrtle's newfound bravery is just what we need to kickstart young Esther's recovery. So we are very quickly going into courage. The angle in the far right corner of the mother, if you look at that, it looks like it's not even being animated the same way. It looks just like a different 3D animation style with more polygons was used. And maybe that is just the lighting and the angle on the face in particular, but it definitely stands out. Probably in a lot of cases, the screen would be a little bit more zoomed in and cropped anyways if you're playing this on the Switch or something. And so you wouldn't even see the mother. Yeah, so they're introducing bravery. Although, at a certain point, I also have to question, do you really want to take some of the bravery of someone who just gained it? I guess it doesn't matter. This magic doesn't make the most amount of sense. Is something the matter, Oliver? Myrtle, I know a girl who's just like you, and she's going through something terrible. Huh? You're so brave. I wanted to know if you'd let me give some of your courage to this girl to help her, and to help her family. Of course, but how do we do that? We use magic. I know just the spell. Magic. You're an interesting boy, Oliver. But sure, go ahead. Alright, close your eyes. Like this? If I were her father, I would be afraid he's gonna kiss her. Although, if I was his father, I may not care too much either. Interesting that it's not right next to each other. So we may get this courage and not get any more courage for a while. It feels warm. My heart, it feels warm. That means the magic worked. Thank you so much, Myrtle. Now, my friend can finally start to get better. I'm glad. Rydo, Oliver, we've got some courage to deliver, ain't it? Let's get going. Sure. Myrtle, I have to go now. Wish your friend luck for me, won't you, Oliver? I hope she gets better soon. Thanks, Myrtle, I will. See you soon, Oliver. And so, yeah, the parents are just gonna stand there. Yeah. This is more of a 3D depiction than the cutscenes do. It's kind of weird to have so many different ways in which things can be rendered. And let's just stand right in front of here and cast Gateway and see what that does for them. Gateway also as a magic doesn't really make sense, because it is just kind of teleporting you in the general place you were last. Right. And to wrap up this episode, which these episodes are getting longer, let's go into this place and save and rest. This is a cat woman, but she seems to be the only one. And this environment is definitely a different looking hotel than the other hotels, or the other hotel we did see. Let's see if we can open a blue. We can't open it yet. Let's see. Do we really need to read any of this? Probably not. May have been a little bit more expensive. But we need to sleep in each place once, and I've got kind of plenty of gold. It seems like you very much go from 0 gold or almost 0 gold to 500 gold fairly commonly, which definitely makes it feel like what will happen is you may very quickly have massive amounts of extra gold, or things may just get more expensive. That may be the other way it balances out. We are, according to the in-game clock, past the 10-hour mark. We're only at chapter 18. We've got what is going to be a quickly increasing amount of errands, and I imagine a decent amount of bounty hunts. As far as all the pages in the book, we are filling them out maybe a little bit quicker than I thought we were going to. And then as far as life lessons, seems like they mostly are going to put kind of an end to that. As far as the life lessons, we may be finally out of the dangerous places. And as far as the full progress report, yeah, the Wizard Companion is at 20%, Creature Companion is at 8%, Task Complete at 7%. Yep. And I guess could like feed one more to this guy. But that we only really did one fight. Increase evasion. Yeah, we definitely are not making massive amounts of progress as far as leveling up the characters. We may find that it's fairly difficult to overpower the characters simply because of the way it's the heaviness limits on that, and we may get characters, familiars, up to like level 50 and then really struggle to get any higher than that. Alright, well, it's been nearly 2 hours, so now is definitely the time to end this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.